Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Three very important topics, otherwise I wouldn't have picked them for you. And I read them because what I share with you guys is what I read. And they're all related to Russia, all three of them. Very important. One has to do with NATO expansion. The other one with Russia's help in overthrowing Western governments. And the third one is any unauthorized Western peacekeepers in Ukraine will be targeted by the Russian military. I think that's baboonish. It shouldn't go like that, the threat. It should go differently. I will tell you how I would inform my Western partners if they dare to bring any peacekeepers in Ukraine, how I would word it. And it's about 3 times more direct than and important than you're gonna be targeted if you bring your peacekeepers in Ukraine. No. Not the peacekeepers will be targeted. You will be targeted. All right, I'm ready. All right, I know, I'm crazy. All right, let's start with the first one. Here, Ukrainska Pravda. Russia demands NATO revoke Bucharest pledge on Ukraine's membership as condition for peace. This is according to the Ukrainians. I was sitting on this since the 24th of January 2025. So, Russia demands NATO revoke Bucharest pledge. So what happened? If you were frequent flyers on my channel here, then you remember that, or maybe you heard me say, that one of the Russians' problems when they were like their antennas were like, what? Was in 2008. There was a NATO summit in Bucharest, Romania. Yeah, the baboons. I like the sun. And then George W. Bush, who graduate Ivy League schools. That's why for me, Ivy League schools in America are, no. Open your mouth to know who you are. He was at Yale and Harvard. George W. Bush. Yeah, that guy. So for me, it was like, thank you very much. Bye-bye. See you never. Ivy League school. Open your mouth. So that baboon, George W. Bush, said, one day, Georgia and Ukraine will join NATO. Hey, what's up, meow meow? And then Putin was in Bucharest as well. And he said, what? Exactly. This was in 2008. After the promise in 1991 that NATO will not move its expansion eastward 1 inch. And they did it, I think, 5 times. They're at the borders with Russia at this point. So now the Russian says, you know what? If we are to talk about this, since we are winning in the proxy war in Ukraine that you organized, then how about you guys revoke that? You're maybe not familiar with this, but in 2021, before the garbage in Ukraine started, not the garbage, that was the consequence of the garbage that was started in 1991, and then 1994, and then 2008, and then 2014. Then this is just the cherry on the cake, which is actually a very explosive cherry on the cake, which is a war right there. So if you remember, and if you don't remember, the Russians in 2021 in October, November, December tried to negotiate with NATO, United States of America, a solution to solve the Donbass, the Russian minority, the ethnic minority living in eastern Ukraine that was targeted by Kiev and so on, military. And the Americans said, no. One of the, if I remember correctly, the requests was about, yes, and NATO should take its fucking troops out of Romania, Poland, and all these countries where they brought them and so on. There was, I think, one of the requirements, which was crazy for that time. For me, let's say if I were a Russian, I would say it was not crazy at all. I mean, like right now, we see in United States of America, a lot of idiots say, this is Native American land, you should go back home. Why? Because you took it, you said you've been sitting on it. Okay then. How about you guys take your troops from Eastern Europe and Central Europe and go back where you said you were going to be staying in 1991. So right now Russia demands NATO revoke Bucharest pledge on Ukraine's membership as condition for peace. That's a big statement, if true. Let's see what this guy said. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Alexander Grushko has said that one of the key elements to end the Russian-Ukrainian war is the cancellation of NATO's promise of Ukraine's future accession, made at Bucharest Summit 2008. as I was talking about. Grushko said that Ukraine's potential membership in NATO, quote unquote, makes it impossible to achieve peace in Ukraine, and in a broader sense, to create at least some kind of security architecture. It's clear what these guys are saying, and they've been saying this. He called the decision of the Bucharest NATO summit, which confirmed at the highest level the alliance's intention to accept Ukraine and Georgia, catastrophic for European security. Quote, failure to withdraw. This wording will create ambiguity, which is absolutely unacceptable for us. And NATO, the Americans, they knew this. For us, when we are talking about the need to achieve a viable, sustainable, ironclad settlement of the conflict in and around Ukraine, Grushko said, right here, is at the 2008 NATO summit in Bucharest, Ukraine and Georgia were denied the granting of the membership action plan, but the summit declared that Ukraine and Georgia would one day become NATO members. And Trump, Jesus Christ, Putin was like, what? What are you talking about? No, that's impossible. So that's one of the things. Now, if they say that with Ukraine, it's like in negotiations. It's like with a bully. The first time before they beat you, that's always the threat. I will beat you up. So they say, hey, come over here, Gigi. First, you don't listen to this guy. He's not commanding you or ordering you what to do. You're a free person. But if you fall for that, you already fell under the threat, the spell that he's going to beat you up. That's why you're going to come being afraid. Not because you're a nice guy. You would say, no, you have something to tell me. You come over here. And then that means you bluff, or maybe you say you're ready for a fucking fist fight. And if the bully is countered at that point, you save not only time, but face as well. So then if you come over, he's going to ask you, what do you have in your pocket? Give me that. Give me this. And it's never ending. And when you're going to put a stop to that, against the bully, then it's going to be you remain without many things that the bully already took from you. So you rather do it at the first attempt. In this case, Russia says, well, you dragged us in this thing in Ukraine because of what happened over there in NATO, with NATO. Now we demand just the Ukrainians. And then we're going to demand the Romanians. Then we're going to demand the Poles, the Baltic states, and so on. Do they have the right to do that? I mean, you have the right to say whatever you want. You're a free person, free country, correct? Well, we find out these guys will, if such a thing will be agreed upon, it's just because the Russians are moving towards the Polish border with their military. If the Russians are losing, they will be dismissed like flies. That's it. So that's the first one. Next one. Next article and topic has to do with Sergey Karaganov. Russia must help overthrow Western Europe's dangerous political elites. Peace on the continent requires breaking the imperialist legacy, he says. All right, so this is a professor, Sergey Karaganov, honorary chairman of Russia's Council of Foreign and Defense Policy and academic supervisor of the School of International Economics and Foreign Affairs Higher School of Economics, Trapakapa, in Moscow. So, what do you think this is it? Is it bad to say such a thing? Okay, if you agree it's bad for a country to say that it would help overthrow then it's bad for Zelensky saying that he agrees with demonstrators in Slovakia currently, trying to overthrow Prime Minister Fico's government. Or maybe you're also not okay with Trump saying that we're gonna get Greenland, or Canada, or the Panama Canal, or maybe Great Britain. So if you think that what the Russians are saying is bad, which I think it is, then you have to agree with what the other guys are saying, even worse, that is also bad. So that's the extent to this little article. Now the third one is very interesting, and I will tell you my vision on how I would negotiate, how I would look over this issue. And I'm quoting, unauthorized peacekeepers in Ukraine will be targeted, Russian diplomat. The deployment of Western forces would only aim to prevent Kiev's defeat. Rodin Miroshnik has said, first, you don't even talk about the deployment. You don't talk about that. You have to scare them, I don't want to say threat them, tell them what's going to be next, what you're going to be your response to that in such a way that they would not even dare talk about it. And any Western peacekeepers deployed to Ukraine without Moscow's approval would become legitimate military targets. That means you bring your military, we're going to fight with you. That's exactly what Zelensky and the West wants. Some imbeciles in the West. Senior Russian diplomat says the statement was made in response to the European Union Military Committee Chairman Robert Brigger's interview on Saturday with Die Welt, in which the general suggested that the ceasefire in the Ukraine conflict could be enforced by EU and international peacekeepers under a UN mandate. Any contingent entering the territory of Ukraine without the consent and permission of Russia is a military target, with quite understandable consequences. Wait a minute. No, you don't talk like that, Mironuk, or whatever your name is. You say like this: any military that you send as peacekeeper without my approval in Ukraine are gonna trigger me hitting your countries, direct your military targets in your country. We're not gonna go to war, man. We got this and we got that, man. We got guns and shit. Don't you think that they will, oh my God, these guys went rogue. Yeah, backed off. You tell them that I'm gonna target your military. Of course you're gonna target the military. Let's say tomorrow NATO says we're gonna send troops to find Ukraine. What are you gonna do? Only then you're gonna hit their military targets within the countries? Or you're gonna hit them you're gonna fight in Ukraine? No, I wouldn't go there. You know what I'm saying? Don't even dare to talk about sending those guys without my approval. And say, oh, if you send them over there, we're gonna target them. Yeah, and we're gonna target with them you. So we are at war over there. But the same way, you can't touch us. It's the same analogy that I give you with that lion, tiger tamer in a circus. You used to watch, when I was a kid, you used to watch animals, in a cage, and you had a tamer with a big, long pole and with a long whip, and it was pushing the tigers and the lions around and make them do stupid stuff. I went to Romania last year, and I went to the circus, and they didn't have animals. They have only some horses running around. Why? PETA. I was like, what the I didn't know that. I wouldn't have gone to... I went to circus for some reasons, not because I wanted to go to circus. I was dragged, like, to circus, okay? So in Bucharest circus I was, mind you. And over there I said, what? No animals? Because I went to see the tigers, the lions, all these things. Nothing. I've been informed when I got on to see that there's not going to be animals. There's going to be only horses. I went, are you fucking kidding me? No, that's exactly how it was. So I remember when the good times, the real times were when I was a kid. And was sneak into the circus, not in Bucharest, but when they were coming around the city, in the various cities. And you could see this guy with a pole and with a whip. This is America, this is the West fighting the Russians. With the pole, which is going to be the Poles, and the whip, which are the Ukrainians or the Romanians. And when the tiger sometimes realizes it's this guy right here poking me and whipping me, they sometimes attack and kill the tamer or injure the tamer. Whatever comes first. I mean, to kill him, you have to injure first, right? Correct. So, the Russians, the same thing. What do you mean you're going to fight the whip and the pole? Why don't you go straight to the guy who is handling these two things, which is the United States of America? And what do you think the Americans will say? Don't you dare. Well, I will, fucker. That's the red line right here. It's a diamond line right there. The Rubicon has been crossed already many, many times. There's no turning back. And you call these guys still partners? I don't want to hear that. When I hear the Russians talking about our Western partners, I feel like vomiting in my mouth and then swallowing. All right. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.